Welcome to Ramya Teacher's Classroom. I'm absolutely thrilled you're joining us today for this explainer on the human endocrine system. We're going to be diving deep into that fascinating, interconnected chemical network that literally keeps our bodies coordinated, balanced, and firing on all cylinders. So let's just jump right in, shall we? What exactly is a hormone? Well, as our source points out, they're chemical secretions. But the kicker here is that they exert their effects on particular organs, what we call target organs. That makes them highly specific in their actions. They're not just floating around aimlessly, they are incredibly precise chemical messengers delivering specific instructions to exact locations.
Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The master command, the pituitary lobe. 2. Stress management, the adrenal glands. 3. Metabolism control, the thyroid and parathyroids. 4. Reproduction, the gonads. And 5. Blood sugar, the pancreatic islets.
Number 1. The master command, pituitary lobe.
You know, what's truly fascinating about the pituitary is how it's physically divided. Let's look at the posterior lobe first. This is actually made up of nervous tissue, acting essentially as a direct extension of the hypothalamus. It stores and releases two absolutely critical hormones. First up is antidiuretic hormone, or ADH, which targets the kidneys. Its primary job? Inducing water conservation to help control our extracellular fluid volume and solute concentrations. Then we have oxytocin, or OCT. This one targets the mammary glands to induce milk movement into secretory ducts, and the uterus, where it induces uterine contractions. These are incredibly fundamental survival and reproductive mechanisms, and they're controlled right from this nervous tissue.
Okay, moving over to the anterior pituitary, we can really see why this is known as the master gland. This section is mostly glandular tissue. It releases corticotropin, or ACTH, targeting the adrenal cortex to stimulate the release of adrenal steroids. It also pumps out thyrotropin, TSH, which targets the thyroid gland to stimulate the release of thyroid hormones. Notice the pattern here? It's literally commanding other glands to do their jobs. And rounding out this group, we have prolactin, PRL, which targets the mammary glands to stimulate and sustain milk production.
Still hanging out in the anterior pituitary, we've got the gonadotropins, and these have beautifully complementary roles in both males and females. Follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, targets the ovaries and testes. In females, it stimulates estrogen secretion and egg maturation, while in males, it helps stimulate sperm formation. On the flip side, luteinizing hormone, or LH, also targets those same organs but triggers entirely different primary actions. For females, LH stimulates progesterone secretion, ovulation, and corpus luteum formation. For males, it stimulates testosterone secretion and sperm release. So it's two distinct hormones, driving vastly different but perfectly synchronized actions depending on biological sex. Now, the anterior pituitary doesn't just boss other glands around. It directly influences almost the entire body through somatotropin. You probably know this better as growth hormone, or STH. Yep, it's the exact same stuff responsible for those sudden teenage growth spurts. Its main targets are most cells throughout the body. The actions here are wide-reaching. It promotes growth in the young, induces protein synthesis, and kicks off cell division. And it certainly doesn't clock out when we reach adulthood. It continues to play a vital role in glucose and protein metabolism for our entire lives.
Finally, kind of bridging the gap, we have the intermediate pituitary, which is also mostly glandular tissue. It secretes melanocyte-stimulating hormone, or MSH. This one targets pigmented cells in the skin and other surface coverings. Its primary action is to induce color changes in response to external stimuli. But fascinatingly enough, it's also been shown to affect behavior. So we've thoroughly mapped out the brain's main control center. But that leaves us with a pretty critical question. When you're suddenly startled, or when your body needs to maintain its long-term internal fluid balance, how exactly does the body instantly react to that sudden stress and manage internal equilibrium further down the line?
Number 2, stress management, adrenal glands. Sitting right like little caps on top of our helping to control the body's essential salt-water balance. This whole outer layer is absolutely crucial for your long-term metabolic health and fluid stability.
Now, this brilliantly illustrates the difference between long-term balance and short-term panic. You know when someone jumps out and scares you, and you get that sudden racing heart? That is your adrenal medulla springing into action. This inner part handles the immediate stress response by secreting epinephrine, better known as adrenaline. It targets the liver, muscle, and adipose tissue to rapidly raise blood levels of sugar and fatty acids, while simultaneously jacking up your heart rate and the force of contraction. Meanwhile, norepinephrine targets the smooth muscle of your blood vessels to promote either the constriction or dilation of their diameter. It's literally directing blood exactly where it's needed most during a fight or flight moment. Number 3. Metabolism control, thyroid and parathyroids. Moving slightly back up to the neck area, the thyroid secretes triiodothione and thyroxine. Much like growth hormone, these target most cells in the human body. Their primary action is to act as the universal dial for our body's overall metabolic rate. They regulate metabolism and play absolutely critical roles in our ongoing growth and developmental processes. But here is where we see just an incredible biological push and pulse system for our skeletal health. The thyroid also secretes calcitonin, which targets the bones to actually lower calcium levels in the blood. Directly opposing this are the parathyroids. These tiny little glands secrete parathyroid hormone, which targets both bone and kidney to elevate calcium levels in the blood. Working together, they act like a highly sensitive thermostat, perfectly balancing the exact amount of calcium circulating in our bloodstream at any given moment. Number 4. Reproduction, gonads. All right, this is where the instructions that were originally sent by the pituitary's gonadotropins are actually executed locally. Our source breaks this down super clearly. In males, the testes secrete androgens, including testosterone. This is required for sperm formation, the development of genitals, and the maintenance of sexual traits and growth. In females, the ovaries secrete estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen takes care of egg maturation and release, prepares the uterine lining for pregnancy, and maintains sexual traits and genital development. Progesterone primarily prepares and maintains that uterine lining and stimulates breast development. These local hormones are responsible for executing sweeping developmental changes across the entire body.
Number 5. Blood sugar, pancreatic islets.
For our final anatomical stop, the pancreatic islets secrete one of the most famous regulatory hormones out there, insulin. Insulin's main targets are the liver, muscle, and adipose, or fat, tissue. Its primary action is straightforward, but literally vital for survival. It lowers sugar levels in the blood. You can think of insulin as the essential chemical key that unlocks your cells, allowing the sugar in your bloodstream to safely enter your liver, muscles, and fat tissues so it can actually be used as energy.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, mapping out everything from the pituitary command center all the way down to the pancreatic islets. But I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. Looking at this vast, beautifully interconnected chemical network, what do you think happens to our body's homeostasis where just one of these highly specific messengers fails to reach its target organ? Think about how delicate this balance truly is. That is the exact foundation you're going to need as you continue your studies into endocrine disorders. Thank you so much for joining me in Ramya Teacher's classroom today. Keep learning and keep exploring this incredible biological machine we call the human body.